Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to If You Smell What the Arch is Cooking. I am your host, Archie Mitchell, and after digging into the library here at WrestleNet Radio, I am pleased to say that this is episode 17 of If You Smell What the Arch is Cooking. Thank you for all of your support of WrestleNet Radio, the We Can't Wrestle podcast, A Slice in Time, the year that was, and all the other great shows, Maximum Gold. Um, we appreciate you guys. And to think that I got to 17 episodes already and that you guys are listening and that the fan base continues to grow is just amazing. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for being here for us, for Nate Maxon, as this was his brainchild. And thank you to Nate for giving us an opportunity to have shows on this platform. This week's show wasn't planned out to be the 17th episode, and there's nothing, you know, like I wasn't going to have streamers or anything because who celebrates 17 episodes? I just thought it would be a nice little tidbit to let you guys know on. But this is the State of Wrestling episode. Why? Well, quite frankly, because there are a lot of things going on in wrestling right now, and I'd like to speak about them completely. So there's no show review tonight. We will not be talking about Rampage, Dynamite, or NXT 2.0. We will be speaking about four facts in the wrestling business that I consider near and dear to my heart and that I think need to have a few things fixed and maybe don't really need that much fixed at all. But you can pop open your favorite frosty beverage. I've already got mine open. And let's talk about the state of wrestling. And the first thing we're going to speak about here tonight is tag team wrestling as a whole. Now, tag team wrestling is by far one of my favorite things about professional wrestling. It's in my top three. I love a good main event with a storyline that's been built up for 6 months, sort of like Hogan and Warrior, which got me into this business. Brett and Shawn at WrestleMania 12, Rock and Austin through their, uh, three matches they had through WrestleMania. I love a great storyline that doesn't lead to a match, but just leads to a wrestler and either his manager or whoever splitting up at the ending and leading us down a primrose path of twists and turns that will always end up being good. And finally, third, tag team wrestling. The Brainbusters or the Horsemen, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Demolition, my favorite tag team ever. The Rock and Roll Express, the Hart Foundation, the Rockers, Legion of Doom, Steiner Brothers, the Head Shrinkers, the Wild Samoans. You name it, I love tag team wrestling. I don't care if you want to call the Powers of Pain a copy of Demolition and the Road Warriors put together. They were still a great powerhouse tag team. I don't care if you want to say that Rick Steiner teaming with Kenny Chaos and winning the WCW tag team titles was BS. They were actually still a great tag team for 2 weeks. They won tag team titles. Buff Bagwell and Scott Norton, Vicious and Delicious. Great tag teams are what you can build a show on sometimes. Hell, you can build an entire show around a tag team tournament. But over the last few years, more so in the WWE, tag team wrestling continues to be slaughtered and then rebuilt. What do you mean by that, Arch? Well, let me tell you. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano were a great tag team. They were known as DIY. They won the NXT tag team titles. They did things no one else did in the ring. And then they got broken up prematurely. Putting back together again, broken up again. Putting back together again, broken up again. It all led to them feuding, which is great. Gargano and Ciampa is one of the best feuds I've ever seen. But it seems to me that they were trying to hotshot them to the level of Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and that was just was not going to happen. Four different men, two sets of wrestlers. Feud could not be redone because, in my opinion, Gargano and Ciampa might have outdone Michaels and Helmsley. The Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. Great tag team, wrestled in Japan, Ring of Honor, NXT. Undisputed Era gets finally broken up. O'Reilly and Fish go their separate ways. Fish is now fired, so O'Reilly is alone. No more Fish and O'Reilly. Red Dragon is dead. On the main roster, we've seen teams like the Hurt Business broken up prematurely, and a lot of great tag teams that have been popping up get dismantled or taken apart and moved away from each other. Vince McMahon did this in the late 90s and early 2000s when he broke up the Dudley Boys. He's done it and attempted to break up teams on smaller scales and bigger scales. Case in point, the Rockers. They didn't have to break up right then and there, but Vince wanted to move on with Shawn Michaels. Marty Jannetty was not proving himself enough. Shawn was the better of the two, and they broke them up. The Hart Foundation broke up amicably at first. Demolition broke up and never seen again. Even the Legion of Doom was broken up by Vince McMahon in order to put Darren Drozdov in Hawk's spot. Vince McMahon loves to kill tag teams. Now, WCW did it as well in their time, breaking up the Steiner brothers and Scott Steiner joining the NWO, breaking up Harlem Heat because Booker T was moving on to bigger and better things. But WCW also did this after these teams were given time to be incredible champions, given time to be incredible teams that got a legacy. Tag team wrestling, as of right now, on the WWE side of things, we've got AJ Styles and Omos. I like AJ Styles. He's a great wrestler. I think Omos is a great giant. I don't think they need to be together as a tag team. I think that their title run sucked. They defended the titles twice in 4.5 months, and then finally lost them to RK Bro. Really, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle are a credible tag team to beat AJ Styles and Omos, who beat the New Day. We'll get to them in a minute, by the way. The Viking War Experience Raiders, whatever the hell you want to call them, were great when they first got to the main roster. They were great in NXT. They were great in Ring of Honor. They were great in Japan. Vince made them into Disney characters. Vince McMahon loves to build tag teams off of two weird, odd coupling people and thrust them to the titles. Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker and The Rock, The Undertaker and The Big Show, John Cena and The Rock, John Cena and Miz. Jesus Christ. Why? You have credible tag teams on the roster. At that time, you had two tag teams in the Nexus. You had DiBiase and Cody Rhodes. You had, it's just ridiculous. And then you break these tag teams up. And because these guys aren't ready to be on their own, you think one is going to be the Michaels and one is going to be the Jannetty, and they both get Jannetty, and then you fire them off. Ridiculous. Now, Vince McMahon was once quoted as saying, well, tag team wrestlers are easy because you just pay them the same amount for both of them as you would for one of the wrestlers on the main roster. Understandable. You pay the Hart Foundation $200,000. They're not going to expect $200,000 like Hulk Hogan gets by himself, which Hulk Hogan was making millions. But you get my point. If the Rockers hear that they're making $75,000 each, $150,000 sounds a lot better than $75,000. So in their mind, they're making a boatload of money. Even to this day and age, if a guy's making $220,000 on the low end guarantee, from my understanding, that's the base salary in the WWE, and he's doing it with his tag team partner, he's thinking, well, we're almost making $500,000. Hooray! So Vince McMahon has said it's easier to pay a tag team and actually have something for them to do by putting them in a tag team match at the beginning of the show or whatever, than it is to pay a singles wrestler and actually book a singles wrestler. but Vince McMahon continuously kills off tag team wrestling. Now you flip the switch to AEW, Lucha Bros, Young Bucks. Let's see who else. Dante Martin and his brother, the Seidel brothers, FTR, Pride and Prejudice, Santana and Ortiz. They are booming with tag teams, so much so that they're thinking about putting together a trios title. You look at Impact, the Machine Guns returned. They had the North for a little while. The Trey Miguel and Sammy Callahan were coming together as a tag team for a little bit. Was actually good tag team wrestling. And Japan has always been known for tag team wrestling. Tomohiro Ishii and Makabe, the Suzuki Gun, Bullet Club, Gorillas of Destiny. I just don't understand why Vince McMahon does not allow tag team wrestling to be a little bit more of a part of his show unless it's a makeshift tag team. I'm tired of seeing Omos and AJ Styles team. I'm tired of seeing RK Bro because as funny as they are, they don't deserve to be the tag team champions because they're not a credible tag team. I'm tired of seeing the New Day. I am tired of seeing the pancakes and the cereal and the funny looking outfits and the paying homage to a video game and the okay, now we're the outsiders, now we're Mortal Kombat. The New Day is now played out unless you're selling your company to Disney. And then you've got two great characters that are going to entertain those kiddies every day of the week. Tag team wrestling, in my opinion, is an art form. Tag team wrestling has died. And unless somebody gives it mouth to mouth resuscitation in the WWE, it will be a joke. It may flourish in Ring of Honor, it may flourish in AEW, and it may flourish in all these other companies. But tag team wrestling in WWE is dead, and it is a joke, and it needs to be put on life support and get some help quickly. Number 2, women's wrestling. I have no issue with women's wrestling. I think the women deserve their spot on the card just as much as the men do. Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Bianca Belair, Zelina Vega, Carmella in the WWE are incredible talents. Shayna Baszler is an incredible talent. Alexa Bliss, incredible talent with a great gimmick. You've got some of the best in the WWE right now, and you've got a few more hanging out in NXT waiting to get to the main roster, which I think will do a great job there. Case in point, Gigi Dolan, Saraya, Io Shirai, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki Cross are doing actually an incredible job as a tag team right now on the WWE TV. Natalya and Tamina are a great second generation tag team, in my opinion. There are women on the WWE roster that are incredible. There are women on the AEW roster that are incredible. Britt Baker, Layla Hirsch. I could go on and on. Ruby Soho just joining them. Jamie Hayter. The women's casino battle royal was not a clusterfuck. It was actually a great looking battle royal from beginning to end. There was just so much going on, you had to pay attention. Thunder Rosa is unbelievable in the ring, and she wrestles everywhere. NWA just did an all women's pay per view. You know my stance on that, but it was actually passable as a pay per view. Deonna Purrazzo in Impact is phenomenal. The Ring of Honor crew just did their own women's tournament and crowned a new women's champion. I have yet to see Roxy actually in a match yet, but I hear she's phenomenal. Here's my problem with women's wrestling. Even though they're getting the main event of certain pay-per-views, WrestleMania, even though they're getting the main event of certain TV shows, they're getting all women's pay-per-views, they're getting all women's tournaments, all women's TV shows. It seems to me that they want more. And I get it. Strive to be the best. Always be on your A game. There's always someone bitching that the women aren't getting something, though. Jordan Grace said, it's terrible that the Forbidden Door wasn't open to women. Really? Because Ruby Soho just slammed the door open on it. Jamie Hayter just came in from England. There have been women popping in and out of the Forbidden Door constantly. So where did you want to go, Jordan, that no one didn't offer you to? Mickey James made that whole fuss about a women's only pay-per-view. But then the women still got 2 matches on NWA 73. So why didn't you just have the all women's pay-per-view and that be the end of it? I'm not saying that women's wrestling should not be around. I think they're great. I enjoy 80% of the women's matches that I see. I think that they've deserved the main event at WrestleMania. I think that they deserve their own pay-per-view. But I think that there are certain times that a lot of these women forget that they used to be the bathroom break, that they forget that they used to be lower on the card than they are now. And they forget that 85% of the fans are there for the main event of Roman Reigns versus John Cena, Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage, Nick Aldis versus Trevor Murdoch, and Ibushi versus Shingo. Not to see Mickey James versus Deonna Purrazzo, not to see Charlotte versus Sasha Banks for the 50th time, and not to see Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker. Yes, we want to see them on the card. Yes, we're happy if it's the main event too, but we're not just there for the women. So if the women want more equality and want things their way more, then maybe Mickey James needs to back away from the company that her husband is champion in and using his greatness that is the NWA. He was champion in, I should say. And maybe Mickey James needs to open the door to her own promotion with the help of Gail Kim, Victoria, SoCal Val, and whatever other women are out there that want to bring in all of these great women. They need to contract the women that they had in the NWA tournament and in the Women's Empower show, in Ring of Honor, in Impact, and in AEW, and have a women's only show. This way, from top to bottom, it could be women. This way, we don't have to hear that somebody did something wrong. But I'm willing to believe that deep down inside, if that were to happen, someone would still say, "Oh, I should have been higher on the card. Oh, I was supposed to be in the main event, but they lied to me and they told me this, and I didn't get paid as much. Oh, they gave me my stuff in a plastic bag and told me to get out." See my point? They're not happy with no matter what they're getting. That's fine and well. That's a story for another day. But whatever the case may be, women's wrestling as a whole has gotten a lot rather quickly, and they need to remember where they came from. WWE and NXT is our next item on the docket, and WWE and NXT I'm going to speak about as a whole. WWE Monday Night Raw has become very repetitive, except for Big E's title win a couple of weeks back. You have seen nothing but Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus, Bobby Lashley versus Randy Orton, Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus, Bobby Lashley. It's been the same 5 guys in the main event. And in the rest of the show, AJ Styles and Omos with the New Day, AJ Styles and Omos with Rated RK Bro. Wait, the New Day and Rated RK Bro are the reason that this all started. Okay, let's go back to them. On the women's side, it's been Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki ASH. Thank God they finally let Alexa Bliss involved in all of this because it's a breath of fresh air. Raw has become repetitive. It's the same show every week. And in between that, they want to show us what happened last week. So it's the same show again being shown to us again another week. SmackDown has been better. Roman Reigns, Edge, Seth Rollins, Cesaro, even the Alpha Club. The Alpha Club has been fantastic. There have been great matches week in and week out on SmackDown, and not everything seems like the same thing over and over again. It doesn't seem like someone is delivering the same promo over and over again. It seems like something new. Even with Roman Reigns saying every week, acknowledge me, I am the tribal chief, he manages to tweak it just enough that it seems new. But SmackDown has been very, very good. Their ratings continue to go up. NXT, with the new revamp, things are going to continue to hopefully get better. At the ending there of the older NXT, I guess before they became 2.0, things were okay. It was becoming a little repetitive. And in my opinion, whenever a new champion is crowned, it's a little repetitive to see Pete Dunne, Johnny Gargano, and Kyle O'Reilly storm the ring, because there are five other guys in that backstage area, like Dexter Loomis and let's see, Dexter Loomis, Carmelo Hayes, Escobar, Swerve Scott, that could very easily come out and ask for a title shot too. LA Knight. You've got newcomers now. It doesn't always have to be the same three guys coming out for the title shot. Furthermore, Swerve Scott has been the North American champion in NXT for over a month. He's defended the title one time in that 6 weeks that he's been champion, and we all want it to be against Escobar. Can we get that damn match now? Now that the $1 Million Man storyline is done with Cameron Grimes and LA Knight, that leaves them kind of out to dry. And the Index storyline, which ended with a great wedding, that kind of leaves them out unless they decide to do something new and move on from there. Leaves them out to dry. The way is kind of been taken, away. And in the women's side of things, the women's tag team titles were just defended 3 weeks ago. It was the first time they defended them in over a month. Io Shirai and Zoe Stark are not very good champions. We're pushing Carter and Caterizano. Gigi Dolan and JC Jane are great, but now they're with Mandy Rose, who, look at me, I've got new hair. The WWE needs to revamp from beginning to end. I'm hoping that the draft is what does it next week. But if not, then God help us, because we are in for some stale, bad product. It's almost like going to the same fast food restaurant, even knowing they mess up your order every time, and just going, the hell with it. That's the way WWE and NXT have become. But I guess we shall see. Finally on the docket, AEW, Impact, NWA, and New Japan. We're going to talk about all of these companies as a whole, because the forbidden door is open to these as well as many others. AEW is thriving. AEW has been fantastic from top to bottom. Yes, they have their small little problems. A Jade Cargill promo or match here, or a miscommunication over there, but everything has been stellar since All Out. And AEW has been phenomenal. New signees such as CM Punk, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, Ruby Soho, Andrade, they have all now mixed in with everyone perfectly, and we can get some dream matches going. And there are still a few names out there, such as Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. Maybe Alana to put her with Rusev, Miro. There are a few women's wrestlers out there that can be picked up and brought into the division as well. And here's the funny part. If you don't want to put them on AEW, well, they can go to Impact, and they can still make their way to AEW. They can go to NWA, and they can still make their way to AEW. Impact, on another note, they've been good. They're not great. They have yet to get back to their that 04 mentality, but the guys that they've got on their roster are killing themselves. Eddie Edwards, Moose, Matt Cordona, Brian Myers, Trey Miguel, Sammy Callahan, Christian, who's now their world champion. They are killing themselves from top to bottom of that card, are putting on phenomenal matches. So Impact has been good. NWA, stellar. Unbelievable from the NWA. NWA 73 had all of the makings of a throwback pay-per-view. That main event between Aldous and Murdoch was, man, if that wasn't a Flair Harley Race match, I don't know what was in 2021. But even if it wasn't that, you don't want to compare them. Those were two men in a knockdown drag-out fight for 40 minutes for the NWA World Heavyweight title. Their tag team division continues to grow. I don't know that many of them because a couple of their tag teams just came to an end. I know that Aaron Stevens and one of these guys are Kratos or something are their champions. I know that their women division is flourishing with Melina there. Camille Brickhouse, Thunder Rosa doing popping still. They have been really doing great with their women's division. And with guys like the Pope and Tyrus, Austin Idol, Velvet Sky on commentary, I think the sky is still the limit for the NWA, and that's weird to say in 2021. And then New Japan Pro Wrestling. They've seen better times. COVID whipped NJPW's ass because of all the travel bans and all of their roster getting depleted from the Americans that were going there. But Shingo, as their World Heavyweight Champion, has been great. The Guerrillas of Destiny have been a mouthpiece for the company and the Bullet Club, doing great. Their talent exchange of allowing Kenta and Tonga Low, I'm sorry, I might be saying his name right, the taller of the Guerrillas of Destiny brothers to come to the United States. Switchblade Jay White going to Impact. Unbelievable. And that's been allowing them exposure that they need during this trying time. So in my opinion, wrestling outside of the WWE is flourishing, continuing to grow, and at a stellar proportion going to be great once again. Wrestling inside the WWE, in Vince McMahon's mind, is business as usual and firing on all cylinders. But what he doesn't realize is it's not 1995, and you can't show me a plumber and a hockey player fighting anymore and expect me to go, okay, I'll wait till the main event, because that's going to be great. Because when you get to the main event and it's not always that great, guess what? There's 5 other channels I could change to that have wrestling on it. There's streaming sites that I could put on that have wrestling on it. I don't have to stick with the WWE anymore. This isn't right after you bought WCW and took away ECW. Times have changed, Vince. It's time to change with them. Sink or swim. So, I know you might not have understood everything I said, and I know you might not agree with everything I said, and that's fine. We allow debates here. If you have anything you don't agree with, please leave a comment on the WrestleNet Radio or the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Let me know what you're thinking. I'll gladly read them on the air and tell you if I agree with you or I disagree. We're allowed to disagree. It doesn't make us enemies. It doesn't mean that we have to curse each other out. That's the beauty about wrestling. We're not fighting each other. We're watching guys fight. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting up with my rants for 17 weeks straight. And thank you for your continued support of WrestleNet Radio. We'll be back again next week, and we will be back at our regular format. Only during the quick hits, I will probably talk about some notable draft moves during the WWE draft that took place this coming week. Thank you for joining me as always. Have a great evening, and I will see you next time on If You Smell What the Arch Is Cooking.